Hej. God morgon. Ben heter jag jobbar på Svenska Apple. Jag ska bara prata någon minut. Och först av allt så vill jag hälsa alla hjärtligt välkomna. Jag vill också be om ursäkt ödmjukast för att några av er fick stå och vänta utanför. Vi var sena i starten. Förlåt. Vi har ett jättehärligt schema idag. Vi har kört videoseminarier här på Münchenbryggeriet i jag tror 3,5 år någonting. Men det vi ska köra idag är väl nästan magiskt skulle jag vilja säga. Jag vill presentera en kollega, en svensk kollega, Jacke Nilsson, som jobbar med education-relaterade frågor kring video. Så att ni som jobbar inom det segmentet, ta gärna kontakt med Jacke under utställningen och så här efteråt. Han finns här hela dagen. Själv jobbar jag med försäljning kring videoprodukter och kommer också finnas i utställningen hela tiden. Så ta gärna kontakt med mig också under tiden om jag har frågor och så vidare. Vad kan vi säga mer innan vi drar igång? Vi har under eftermiddagen breakout session. Så det jag vill säga om den första är att vi har en svensk konsult, en användare utav Final Cut. Jag ska inte säga att det är den bästa i landet, för det vet jag inte. Men han är slipad. Han heter Mats Hjelm och kommer köra en breakout session. Han är inte här nu, men han kommer om en liten stund. Så det blir en härlig övning. Vi kommer att lära er massor med tips och tricks i Final Cut Pro. 3 förstås. Jag tror vi är klara där. Min introduktion i alla fall. Och jag ber att ni hjälper mig att hälsa Oren Sid välkommen. Det vill säga att jag heter Paris. Välkommen.
Tack Benny. Good morning. Hur mår du? Hej. Jättebra. I am here to talk to you about $50,000 or 50,000 euros of editing power at a fraction of the cost. Our seminar today is called Lights, Camera, Action. How many of you have been to one of these seminars before? Raise your hands. Ah, a few of you. So you know how we always begin, right? We ask you to do us a little favor. Actually, not us, but the people next to you. We are in ground zero for mobile phones, right? The Nordic countries. And I bet every one of you has at least one of these, possibly two. Can you please turn it off now? Because we have this slight problem. It's actually a technical problem that we have here. And what happens is if you get a very personal call on your mobile phone, it tends to broadcast on the audio system. And everybody hears it. So you definitely want to turn off your phone now. As I said, 50,000 euros of editing power at a fraction of the cost. That's what we're here to talk about. We're going to show you this morning a complete solution, a complete workflow for how you do digital video and digital film editing. And as part of that, what's really changed is not necessarily so much the techniques, but the price, the cost. And we're going to show you how today you have professional power at a fraction of the cost, and we're going to show you examples of what you can do with that. Whether you're somebody that's moving up, or whether you're already a very experienced professional, what you can do with equipment when the equipment and the techniques come down in price. Now, what's very important is that everything we're showing you today is going to be based around Final Cut Pro. And Final Cut Pro, Apple's editing and effects software, is one package, but yet it works in multiple formats. It works in DV, it works in SD, and it even works in HD. And we're going to show you all that today. And that's very important for you to understand that this is not just a DV solution, but one for all formats. But the solution we're showing you today isn't just from Apple. It's one that is combined with all of the top partners and players in the video and cinema business. People like Sony, Broadcast and Professional Division, who are a partner here today. Pinnacle Systems, LaCie, Digital, Voodoo, Wacom, Reflect Media, Digital Vision, Discrete, Ultimate, all of the people that make the products that are already being used by professionals in the broadcast and cinema world are working together with Apple to provide a complete solution to you. And we're going to be demonstrating that today. This afternoon, we'll have a couple breakout sessions, as Benny mentioned, on Final Cut Pro specifically, where we'll go into more details, as well as Shake, where we'll go into more details. So overview this morning, then more details this afternoon. Now, we're going to be running on a couple different machines today. In particular, we're going to be using the latest PowerBook, the G4 PowerBook with 800 megahertz. And one of the critical features of the PowerBook is that it is the only notebook computer with a digital video output, so that it can drive huge monitors like the Apple 23-inch cinema display. So just from a PowerBook, you can now connect it up to a large screen format and work with multiple screens. In fact, another unique feature of the PowerBook is that it features something called L3 cache. Okay, raise your hand if you know what L3 cache is. There's about 5 of you out there. What it means is, it is the one notebook computer that has memory attached to its processor that allows it to work and crunch, number crunch, big amounts of information, which is very important with video. And that's why it makes such the absolute best mobile editing solution. We're also going to be running on the latest PowerMac machines. We have 3 models right now going up to 1.25 megahertz. But these things, what's new about them is that they are all twin-engine supercomputers. But I want to tell you, it's not just that these machines have 2 processors, but we have re-architected, we've recreated the whole PowerMac on the inside. The whole thing's new. And it's been set up so that the whole thing has 2 buses that work together to take advantage of those dual processors. So you have more room for hard drive bays, more room for all kinds of different peripherals, whether it's boards. We're going to be showing you some, like the Pinnacle Cinewave board that goes in there today. And that all is using a new architecture that is actually based on this machine, which is the new Apple Xserve. And we're actually, you can't see it back here very well, but behind us we are working and running an Xserve here on stage, and there's also ones that you can see in the exhibition area. Here you see pictured is a product that we've announced, but we've previewed, I should say, but we haven't begun shipping or announcing yet, which is a RAID product. That's the working name is X-Ray, which will provide just oodles and oodles of storage, connected via a fiber channel connection. Everything you see today will be running in Mac OS X, of course, our operating system. In fact, Mac OS 10.2 Jaguar, which is the latest version. Here you see we're going to be using, we're showing both, there's a server version and a client version of Mac OS X. One of the key features Let me ask you, how many of you are running Mac OS X today? Raise your hands. Lots of you. And how many have switched to the latest version, Jaguar? Okay, good percentage. One of the features in Jaguar that changes is how we actually composite what you see on screen. And a key portion of Mac OS X is that the entire interface is composited. And what we've been using in the past has been known as the Quartz compositor. And it's what puts together your 2D, 3D, and your multimedia content all on screen. Very important for those of you working in video. But we've updated that, and in the latest version, we have a technology known as Quartz Extreme. And Quartz Extreme, what it does is it actually, instead of using the CPU that's in the Power Mac or the PowerBook, shifts the processing for doing the screen compositing to the actual graphics processor that's part of one of the high-end graphics card that we include in all of our products. Like here it showed the NVIDIA. I want to do now a quick demo of the Quartz Extreme technology so you can see how important it is. As I move over here, what you see is I've got on my screen here is I've got a QuickTime movie. I've got a little tool that is just for demo purposes that allows me to turn on and off this Quartz Extreme feature. So right now it is turned off. And here, down here, this speedometer that I have here, this is actually measuring the frames per second that are being generated on screen. And here, down here, that looks like the tachometer, this is a CPU monitor. It's actually telling me how much of the CPU I'm using, the central processing unit, versus using for doing this, for driving the screen, as opposed to other applications. So if I turn on this movie, what you see is, you see quickly it moves up the number of frames per second as well as the CPU. Now to make this a little more difficult, I'm going to open up another application which is basically a 3D object. And this 3D object here, can you see it very well? Is moving, and you see once I've got that, look at suddenly the frames per second has dropped. But look at how much of the CPU is being used. In fact, I've got another one. So just to push it to the extreme, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go, okay, let me open up another one, another 3D object. And this one is a teapot, and we're going to put this one in motion as well. And you see that suddenly, look at how the frames per second, this is really taxing the machine. And look how much of the CPU is being used to do all of this on screen, to composite all of this motion images. Now, I'm going to turn the Quartz Extreme feature on and drive this from the graphics processor. And watch the meter. Whoa, suddenly, now it's processing using the graphics card. Way up goes the number of frames per second. You can visually see that now things are moving. I'm not dropping any frames. And look at the same time, how much I'm using of the CPU has dropped down considerably so that I can actually use that CPU power for other things. That's Quartz Extreme. Now, I want to show you another feature as well. Let me just close these things down. I'll leave Quartz Extreme running. I'll stop my QuickTime movie, close that down, close these guys down as well. One of the other features that I want to show you in Mac OS X utilizes one of these things. How many of you have a graphics tablet? Raise your hand. Some of you. These, if you work in video or graphic design, so let's see, how many of you are in professional video or filmmakers? Raise your hands. Great. How many of you are designers? Graphic designers, or publishing, or industrial designers, architecture? Good. Photographers? Quite a few. Musicians, audio engineers? Publishers? Anybody other than that? We got all the great creative people here. Well, you guys should be using one of these. This is a Wacom tablet. And it is very, very important because most of you do some sort of visual work or draw as part of your living. And this thing works great. In fact, this is we're demonstrating the Intuos 2 here that has a pressure-sensitive pen with 1,024 levels of pressure sensitivity. And I just want to show you a new feature of Mac OS X. I'm just opening up the text edit feature, and I'm using the pen here. Now you're going to have to give me a good credit for my handwriting here. But if I write here, what you're going to see is that, let me highlight that and make it a little bigger so you can see, is that actually what's happening here is I am showing making this much, much bigger. Let me just raise it up a size. Okay, good. And you can see that when I'm writing here on the tablet, what's happening is actually the letters that, oh, if you don't press too hard. You got to click on the application. What's happening is, you get the idea. If I could actually print, it is actually recognizing my handwriting as I go along here. And what it allows you to do, if you're used to using a graphics tablet, is it allows you to work away and actually begin writing and using the same sort of Newton handwriting recognition that we had before, that it'll actually recognize your handwriting and allow you to work simply from the tablet. It's a very smooth workflow. And that is called Inkwell. So those are a couple new features that are part of Mac OS X version 10.2 that you might not have recognized. And of course, I'm showing the Wacom Intuos 2 tablet. Never mind my handwriting, that's the problem. Okay, we're going to show you today a variety of different things. We're going to go through this complete workflow. Everything from online and offline editing, working in multiple formats. We're going to show you green screen keying and compositing, color correction, compression, networking, a whole range of subjects now. And to do that, I want to introduce some experts here to do our Apple Showcase. In particular, I want to introduce you Mr. Graham Cooper here, direct from Stockholm, in Paris. Come on. And Mr. Martin Gisborne, right over here. Direct from Nottingham, England. And these gentlemen are going to take you through lights, camera, action. I'll be back later. Hope you enjoy it.
Alrighty, how are you doing? DV format, digital video. Everybody today is using these digital video cameras. We want to take you right the way through using all the different formats. And we're going to begin with DV, digital video. Now, one of the messages we're going to get today, if you take away nothing else at all from today, is this. Is that Final Cut Pro does all of these formats with one application. What we're going to do is show you why, for example, guys like him, a guy called Steven Soderbergh, and other great Hollywood giants are today actually not only making movies and so forth using Final Cut Pro, but are changing the way that the movie industry works. It's everybody from those guys at the top of the movie making pyramid down to humble beginners, perhaps like myself, who just have a DV camera and I just want to do stuff and make it fun. But I'm using the same tool set that is available to guys like Soderbergh. Now, if you want to find out more about how these things are changing the world that we're living in, go to apple.com and go to the creative section on our website. You can see testimonials, great stories by guys like that and others who are using Final Cut Pro right now, today, to do all kinds of great work. Now, because of that, Final Cut Pro is in very good company. It's award-winning. It's won them all. It's won Grammys, Emmys, Nobel Peace Prize, I think was one of them. Yeah, it's won a few things anyway. Okay? And seriously, it got a Grammy Award and an Emmy Award for technical excellence in the movie industry. That's something we're very proud of, yeah? Because we're kind of like a computer company that makes software. So we're getting awards from the movie industry. That's because the software's great, yeah? And you can get your hands on it, you can use it, you can do good stuff. Now, what I like about it is that Final Cut Pro came out and really enabled not just new movies to be made, new content, but entirely new companies. It's a guy called Richard Gillespie who runs a company in London called Difference. Him and his partner worked in the film industry and television as cameramen and recording engineers. And they took a year out from that to really develop a new company. And what they saw was the things that were needed in those industries. They developed a company to meet those needs. And then they went looking for a tool to do it. So I went and interviewed these guys. I took a long digital video camera and taped it. And I've got it here in my iMovie. So what we'll do now is we'll show you that.
Coming from a broadcast background myself, when we set Difference up, our key clients, our key business was always going to be broadcast. We wanted to develop a broadcast solution. This whole company has been developed on listening to producers, directors, production managers. We identified that there was areas that people weren't happy with about the post-production process that they were using. There seemed to be a lot of areas where processes were being duplicated, a lot of waste. We developed a solution that answered people's problems, and the software that worked for us was Final Cut Pro. What we've had to do with Final Cut is build it into a familiar environment that people recognize and that they can work with. So when you go into one of our offlines, you see a fairly conventional setup. You see dual monitors, you see a PAL output monitor. I think where Apple have been very clever is that they've developed a very powerful piece of software that you can add hardware to it. A good example of how powerful this software is was Drugs Are Us, which was produced by Betty Television for Channel 4 in the UK. Drugs Are Us was a very sensitive program to film. It meant that there was a lot of rushes. There was 50 hours of rushes. What Final Cut enabled the producer to do was log all that material on a G4 laptop in a non-linear environment. Traditionally, we would be looking at VHSs, spooling through VHSs with burnt-in timecode on, writing numbers down on sheets of A4 paper, and really that makes no sense at all. We found it an easy tool for experienced editors to move over to. In fact, the editor that cut this 50-minute documentary had never worked on Final Cut Pro before. The same version of the software was used throughout the post-production process, from laptop logging through to a sophisticated color grade. Final Cut seems to enable a great deal of creativity in people, and a lot of people work together to get the best results for this program. We've got an interesting job with this at the moment. It's a reality-style TV show, hundreds of hours of rushes. Now, how do we cope with this volume? What we've done is we've set up for the company a transfer station where they can digitize all the material at the Final Cut Pro RT offline quality. This means that producers can log their rushes on their G4 laptop, but it doesn't mean they only have access to their rushes. Everybody else has got access to those rushes as well. I think the scary thing about building a solution that's going out into a marketplace that has very conventional ways of working is, can it deliver? People have got tight budgets, they've got tight schedules. I think what we're doing is proving that Final Cut can deliver in a broadcast environment.
So that's Richard Gillespie of The Difference, and what I love about that is that's just one company out of literally hundreds that I know about that have set themselves up to serve the broadcast environment, because as Richard just said, Final Cut Pro delivers in that broadcast environment. Quick question for you. How many people are using Final Cut Pro today? Version 3, show me. Lots and lots of you. Okay, so for the rest of you perhaps want to know what Final Cut Pro looks like, I'm going to pass you over to a man who actually understands this stuff. This is Martin Gisborne, and he's going to show you how Final Cut Pro works with DV. Martin.
Hey, how do I do? Do I get into Martin? Anybody that's seen me on the stage before is going to be really disappointed that I have not learned any more Swedish since the last time I was here. Okay, so if you can see me behind this wall of equipment, I'm going to run you through some basics of Final Cut Pro in the DV format. Okay, so we're just working with a regular DV camera. And for those of you who are already working in Final Cut, you're going to know a lot of this, but quite a lot of you here that are not using it yet. So I'm just going to show you quickly around Final Cut. This is the interface. It's very straightforward to use, very, very simple to use, but has this incredible power behind it as well. Now, the basics of Final Cut Pro are that you have these 4 windows here. You have the browser window, which is where you store all of your the elements of your project. So you can see that I have media clips down here. Now, if I double click on one of those media clips, it brings it up into this window here. Now, this is my viewer window. This is when I can see exactly what that clip is about. Okay, so I can run that in there. And in that particular window, I can set my in and out points. So I can say, okay, I've got this clip, but I only want to use this part of it. And what I can do is drag clips up into there and set those. So for instance, we have one here. I can go to this bit and say, okay, let's mark that as in. And then I can just drag these down into this window or this window and start to build my project. So for instance, I can actually go through, and there's lots of different ways I can do this. I can actually select a whole bundle of clips and bring them into here and start to build my project up. So I can see that just running straight through, goes from clip to clip. Very, very easy, very, very straightforward. There are lots of things that I can do also in here. I can say, all right, well, I'll tell you what, I want a different clip. Let's say this clip here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, okay, let's just insert it into that point there. And now I've inserted my clip into that part of the movie. So it's very, very straightforward and very easy to start building your project up very quickly. So this is some footage that we had from a big project that went on. You might be familiar with it, called Day in the Life of Africa. And this is some footage that was actually shot on a DV camera and then we brought it into Final Cut Pro. Now there's something else that I want to do here. What I want to do is at the beginning, I want to bring in a talking head. So someone that I've interviewed perhaps, and then I want to put them in at the beginning of this clip and maybe sort of composite them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about a solution for that particular part of it. I'm just going to switch back to this for a second and talk about this. What we have up on stage here, we have a Sony PD10X. This is the new Sony camera, but it's set up on my tripod up here. Now this is an absolutely brand new camera. You can talk to Sony, who are outside, a little bit more detail about it after this. But basically it does some very clever things. With DV cameras, you used to have to do, if you wanted to do a 16:9 kind of letterbox format movie, you had to do this thing called anamorphic recording, which kind of squidged the pixels. I'm sure there's a technical term for that, but squidging will do for now. Or you could shoot in the regular 4:3 aspect ratio, but now you can do this 16:9 on the PD10X. It's a very, very good solution. Now the other thing about creating a talking head is that quite often you want to actually remove the background from that. So one of the things you'll do is you'll shoot it on what's called blue screen or green screen. And this is usually quite an elaborate solution. You have this, you have to build a studio and paint the backdrop green or blue, and it's quite an undertaking to do it. However, one of the people also here on this event with us is a company called Reflect Media, and they produce this thing, this little doohickey here that you can see on the front of a lens, and this provides us with a very cost-effective solution for doing green screens. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip over to my other machine. Actually, I'm going to show the camera. So I'm going to bring the camera up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to release this for a second. And what I'm going to do is point this towards you so I can blind you all for a second. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this on. Okay, now you should be getting some quite serious green light off there. You see that? Okay, now this green light is, there's only two elements to the solution here. One is this green light that's on the front of my camera. I'm just going to turn that around again because I want to show you the second element. Now this is all the technical stuff you see. Okay, so now I'm going to point this at myself. Aha! Sorry about that. Okay, now there's a second element that I want to be able to bring into here. I need a backdrop to create the green screen. Okay? Now this is a little itty-ditty one. They make very, very large screens as well. They're based on the Lasterlight. Everybody familiar with Lasterlight reflectors? It's based on this. So it just kind of folds out. This is a very small one that you can use for very simple kind of processors. Now, if I just stand in front of this, right, you can see me here, and I'm going to want to key something out. Now you see this grey, this is just grey, look, but it's embedded with glass stuff in it. And I can hold this up, and we can perhaps play with this. There you go. Now I have a keying solution. Okay, you get very large ones of these, we just don't have room to put it up here, but you get very large ones of these and create your green screen. Now we've actually got one of those already, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip to my other machine for a second and go back into Final Cut Pro. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch another project that we have here and just show you how this works. Okay, so here we have a clip that we created. This is Vera, this is the lovely Vera, who's our receptionist at Apple in Paris. And we filmed her against a very large one of these Reflect Media screens. Okay, so you can see that we've actually got this nice green screen on there. So I'm just going to put her onto a background. I have another background here, which I'm just going to drag into my sequence here, which is of this is actually a stock library footage from Digital Vision, who are also with us out in the main room over there. And I'm just going to bring this over the top, like so. All right. So now you're seeing that we have one that I'm going to take that green screen background off and composite it onto the other one. Now that's actually very easy to do because there are tools directly in Final Cut Pro to allow you to do this. And I can just go into here and I can say, okay, well I want a blue and green screen, and turn it to green. And I can start to play with these sliders and start to increase the quality of that key, okay? So very, very simple solution. Now, I've actually got some that I'm just going to delete this for a second, because what I've done is I've created some favorites. If you use filters or effects in a regular fashion in Final Cut Pro, you can actually have those effects in there in your favorites folder. So I have these here, and I can just drag them into my particular clip. The second one I'm using there is another Final Cut Pro filter called Matte Choker, and then we also have a spill suppressor, okay? So that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to bring up the Digital Vision one. I have one final one, which is to put a slight tint onto that. And there you see we have our key running. It's very, very quick and a very easy solution for that. So it's a very, very portable solution. I missed out that, didn't I? I missed something else. We'll come back to that, I think.
Hey, you're on a roll.
I'm on a roll with that one. So that's a very quick, very portable solution for doing green screen, okay? So when you want to do green screens, you can do it very, very easily with that. I'm going to pass back on to the PowerBook, because we're going to talk about how we actually captured that footage. Do you want to talk about that, or shall I?
Yeah, sure, if you like.
Go on.
This is incredible. I love this thing. This is the brand new from Sony. It's called the DU1. When we were in the office and we were taping Vera, who was just sitting there with a Reflect Media screen, we had a digital video camera, okay? And we also had this. This is effectively a hard disk recorder. What it lets you do is connect that hard drive to your DV camera. So you're actually getting double safety here. Because not only is your camera recording to the tape and the drive at the same time, but it's letting you do other things as well, okay? Now, we can have this in PAL or NTSC. We can use this actually for doing some incredible time-lapse work also. The great thing about it is that it's Final Cut Pro just sees that DU1 like it sees any other tape deck, any other DV camera. On top of that, when you plug this into your Macintosh, it's a hard drive. It sees it as a hard drive. You see every clip that you recorded as a file on that hard drive. And it just becomes a Mac. You can just drag and drop these from the DU1 across to your Macintosh. And it uses a thing which is fairly new called MXF, Material Exchange Format. So you've got a network, maybe a working environment combining of decks, multiple workstations, perhaps some archive type machinery as well. And it's very easy now just to drag and drop these MXF files across Gigabit Ethernet, for example, and other Pro Macs, and just use that in any way you like. So that's what we did, that's how we captured it, and the results from that are absolutely stunning. Now, this is keying with digital video and doing green screen keying just within Final Cut Pro. There are other things you can do as well. There's a little company called Ultimat. In fact, they've been around for a long time. If anyone watched some of the real classic compositor movies, let me tell you what they were. Titanic, for example, was one, okay? Ultimat developed the software that allowed, for example, what was the name? What was again Titanic called?
Leo.
Leo Sayer. No. Leo DiCaprio to stand in front of a green screen with a big ship moving behind him. Ultimat come from the pro movie industry, but they've also written that keying software for Macintosh as well. And here to show it to you is Martin.
Okay, so now I'm back in Final Cut Pro, and as Graham was saying, this is a much more serious method of doing green screen and blue screen for something when you build a studio set, for instance, that has this. And we have this footage here. This is footage that we're using to show the Ultimat Advantage. We've got this lady here. You can see she's on this got this blue screen background here. And what we want to do is we want to take her off that and put her onto a different background. So I have her up in my viewer window up here. And what I'm going to do is, the first thing I want to do actually, there's something that's not quite right with that particular footage. And you'll notice that because of the angle we're shooting at, we've got this kind of mushy bit here where where the blue screen runs out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the filters that is with Final Cut Pro, and I'm going to create what's called a garbage mat. So I've just gone in there and put that garbage mat on there. I need to now look at my controls, and I'm going to move the second point of my garbage mat. Okay? So it's now just got rid of all of that. It's just going to mask that area out. Okay, so now I'm kind of reasonably happy with that particular mat. Now what I want to do is I now want to apply the Ultimat Advantage filter. So I'm going to go back into my filters down here, go to Ultimat, go to Advantage, and it's brought that into there. Now that's just giving you a very, very quick start towards the filter, but we have to actually give that filter some information. Now I have this file here, which is called the background. Now this is what we want to have that woman appearing against. So I'm going to drop that onto the background preview, and then I'm going to launch Advantage. Now it does this, it actually goes away and freaks you out the first time you see it, and then it takes you into this whole different interface, which is the interface for Ultimat Advantage. Now I'm just going to click on this, and you'll see those numbers. Those numbers on the screen are indicating that I have a garbage mat in there, a 4-point garbage mat. Now it's very, very easy to start working with removing the background. So I'm just going to click on that and say, let's do a sample of that. Now that's not so bad, but it's not perfect. There might be other things I want to do. Maybe I want to try and clean that up. I can hit the clean button here. Now if I do that, it's a kind of slightly better looking key. But you'll notice now that we've actually lost the transparency in this shirt down here. Okay, so that's not really the solution we want to see. Let me just turn that garbage mat on so we can actually see what that's done. So you can see here, you can see there's a little edge there that's not quite been able to key correctly. They should be the same colour because it should be keying that out completely. Okay, so there's something else I can do. I'm just going to cancel this, go back into here, and this is a really important tip, an important thing to bear in mind whenever you do a blue screen key. And this is the people at Ultimat will tell you this. Any compositor will tell you this after the headaches they have putting these things together. Is you create a clean plate. So you have this background, which is the blue screen studio, and you shoot it without any actors in there. So you get a clip that has a clean plate. Now I'm just going to drop that into clean plate on Advantage, and then launch back into there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, let's do this again. Let's just sample that off. And then I'm going to launch that little window up. You see it's doing a reasonably good job of that. Turn the garbage mat on, and you'll now see that you can't see any edge in there. Plus, you can also see the transparency in that top there. So it's done a really, really nice key on that. Okay, so that's Ultimate's Advanced Edge. Okay, so
Which was the finished one.
shall I show you the finished one? Have we got the finished one? Where is the finished one? I don't know where the finished one is. Hold on a sec, I just need to launch that one up. Dum dum dum. Completed, 50'1". There you go. And there she is, nicely keyed out of that background. Pretty cool, huh?
Not
Very,
bad
very good
digital
solution
video.
for a green screen and blue screen matting on there. Okay, so I'm just going to pass back onto this machine and back to Graham.
So in summary, digital video, many advantages. The equipment is relatively inexpensive, yeah? And it's easy to use. It plugs directly into your Macintosh using technologies like FireWire. And Final Cut Pro works beautifully with digital video. I think everybody kind of knew that. But don't bear in mind that even with digital video, using tools like Ultimate, using the built-in tools in Final Cut Pro, you can do a lot of professional level compositing and screening effects. I love the reflect media because just like digital video, that's kind of affordable and easy to understand and very fast to use. What about other formats? Okay, well there is something called standard definition. What's that? Well basically it's different cameras that you use. The tapes are bigger. And one of the offsets of that is that the actual film itself is not as compressed as digital video is, which gives you kind of like a better quality. However, there is a downside. Because it's not compressed, you're dealing with much more data, okay? For example, I've got some standard definition files here on my Mac, and this Mac, in fact, is fully loaded. Inside this one, I'm using what's called the Pinnacle Cinewave card. Okay, that Cinewave card does all the things I need to do to, for example, capture standard definition video, as well as process it fast enough onto Final Cut Pro. There's other cards available. I mean, I could have used this as a digital voodoo card. It's tremendous. Again, you can see this outside the exhibition area also. That'll let me preview standard definition video on a desktop Macintosh. Other things I've got here are for storage. Now there's various storage solutions. As you know, the Apple X-Ray is coming along. Right now I'm using this. This is a LaCie GX12000. Okay, what is that? I call it a big box of drives. Okay, so a RAID array. In other words, what we're doing is we're speeding up the throughput, being able to drag information off a hard drive much faster, because in this particular one, we've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 12 drives sending information to the Mac. Okay? So it's a storage solution, it's also a speed solution. What about if you just want to capture stuff? Okay, well we know what digital video, you can get DV camera right in, or you can use a DV deck. It's exactly the same when you use standard definition. This is brand new, this is a Sony J3 deck, I've got it here, you can see the Sony outside, and that just does all of the different formats in SD. Digital Betacam, Betacam SX, MPEG IMX, it's all on there for you. Again, just connect that up. Alright, so let me show you, it's actually not much to show you on this, so you'll be surprised. Let's have a quick look. If we go on here, I'm using exactly the same product that Martin was using for DV, I'm using now for standard definition. Same interface, same everything else. If you've learned how to do DV, you've also learned how to do SD. For example, I can take a clip, bring it up here into the viewer, I can preview this clip. It's going to run that back for me. Okay, so I can preview the clip in there. I can set in and out points like Martin did. I can drag that over here. I can do a little overwrite, put that on my timeline. I can take multiple clips. I can add them all in here. And I can play that back as well. The other thing I can do is, if I've got a PAL monitor, I can plug that into the breakout box here, and I can preview the playback just as it would appear on a TV screen. But right just now, I'm just going to play it back from here. So that's playing back full standard definition in the same software, not a different version. You don't have to buy Final Cut Pro for DV and another copy for SD. It's one application is doing all this. Now, I could carry on doing stuff up here. It kind of reaches a stage where, you know, I don't like sitting in the office, but I loathe sitting in the office. I would much rather be either at home or down a coffee shop or somewhere, and actually working, perhaps not with all this equipment, but just with my titanium PowerBook. Now, the titanium PowerBook is awesome, but it just doesn't have the storage for the amount of data that I need to process here. But I've got a solution for that. Let me show you what I could do. I can say, okay, let's take this and this. This is my project and my clips. And I'm going to use a thing called Media Manager. Now, Media Manager does a bunch of different things. For example, I can make a copy of all the work here. And it shows me that, well, the work you're doing just now, you've got 3.8 gigabytes of data. And if you make a copy, that's just another 3.8 gigabytes. No surprise there. But I want to put this onto my PowerBook and work with it, and I want to use recompress. Instead of having 3.8 gigabytes, I've only got 112 megabytes. Because what it's doing is it's using a format called offline RT that we developed for Final Cut Pro. This will take a smaller size of image, recompress it, a little bit more compression, and that means I can get many hours of footage onto a PowerBook and work with it in Final Cut Pro. Now, how can I get that onto a PowerBook? Let's just have a look. Well, I can have my PowerBook at home connected up to, for example, a high definition 23-inch cinema display, because now they're together at last, you can connect these digitally, okay, which is a great solution. But how am I going to get it over there? I can do it a bunch of different ways. All our Pro machines have got gigabit Ethernet built in. I could use Airport, because I'm only going to send the project file, which is tiny. It's only about 100K. I could airport that, firewire it, USB, damn, I could even send it home on a modem. Anything I wanted to do with that. Once I've got it sent over, I'm then sitting on my PowerBook working with the same footage with just a different format. I'll pass it to Martin to show you that.
Alrighty, so now I'm over on my PowerBook. I'm just going to come out of the PowerPoint for a second. And what I need to do is I'm just going to find the file. So this is the file that we brought off from the SD system. We've done the offline RT, and we now have that Final Cut Pro project there. I'm just going to double click that and launch Final Cut Pro. And it's bringing in, it's not seeing a camera because I don't have a camera connected, that's fine. It's bringing in that particular project that Graham was starting to work on over there. So now we have that same project, you see that running in there. But now it's running on my PowerBook, and it's not running as SD, it's running in this offline RT format. So if I just show you this for a second, here's some of my clips here. And I'm just going to zip this out a little bit so you can see more detail here. You can see that the clips are now coming at 320 by 240, photo JPEG, 25 frames per second. Now with this particular format, with this offline RT, it means that we can run and work with our edits very easily. So I can do exactly the same editing here on my PowerBook as Graham was doing in the SD. I can go to one of these and say, okay, let's put my favourite transition in there. Let's put another one in here. Let's go to that one. And then just see how that looks. I can make different changes to those edits. I can pretty much edit however I want to do. Now the great thing about this offline RT format is that I don't have to replicate this work when we go back. Okay, it's very straightforward. So we take this project that we've now created on our PowerBook, and we take the PowerBook back in, and we connect it into the gigabit Ethernet or by Firewire disk or any of that. And what we do is we just pass that saved project from Final Cut Pro back into the Maestro over there. So I'm just going to pass back to Graham.
Okay, so the little project file is all we need to send. As I said, it's just a 128K. So I'm just going to double click to open that. And it's going to complain. It's going to say, hold on, none of the actual data that goes in this project is here. All that offline RT data might not be on this machine anymore. That's cool. That's okay. We'll just open that up, and what I'll get is this Media Offline banner. Now, let's have a look at this. First of all, it's come directly from the PowerBook, so the project is still expecting to see this offline RT 320 by 240, okay? So I'm going to change that first. This is a great little power tip for Final Cut Pro users. If I wanted to change the sequence settings back to standard definition, I could do it from a menu. Here's another little great thing you can do. If you hold down the control key and click almost anywhere in Final Cut Pro, you'll get a context-sensitive menu. And I want to maybe use that by clicking there, and let's just change the sequence settings very quickly. I'm going to load up my standard definition preset, that's fine. Immediately see that's happened. Now what else do I need to do? Oh yeah, the clips aren't there either. Those red arrows mean they're all offline. So I'm going to make them online. Again, I'll show you how you do that. You just hold down the control key, click, and just reconnect the media. I need to reconnect just the offline media. I need to go and get it, and it's on a drive. In fact, it's on my C drive down here. So I'll just go and get that stuff. There it is. I only have to find the first file, which is offline. And then when it sees that one, it goes and looks for the rest of them itself. Terrific. See what we got here. Oh, didn't do that one. Hold on. Sequence settings, reconnect the media. Excuse me just a moment. Got to reconnect all that media. Oh, it was all going so well there, and then all of a sudden I lost what I was doing. I know what I'll do. Take all of these. And we'll just choose them all. Okay, I do not know why I've done that. It was all going swimmingly. Never mind, not a problem. What I can do is just bring it up over there. Connect that back up and it just reconnects to it, he said. Now, once you've got it reconnected, you're back into standard def. With all the edits that you want in place. What editing can you do? You've seen we can do transitions, we can do multiple sort of format stuff. What I want to do is maybe just a simple bit of color correction on this. So maybe here we've got a yellow bike. I want to bring up some color correction in there. What I'll do is just go to effects, I'll go to my color correction filters, and there's a bunch of them for highlight saturation and RGB balance. I want to use a new one called Color Corrector 3-Way. And the Color Corrector, 3-Way Color Corrector is like a professional level tool, which is why it's got this interface, okay? This emulates the 3-way color correctors that you find in broadcast studios. Basically, you're working with the blacks, the whites, and anything in between, the midtones. So I can use this to set my black point, for example. I can use a little eyedropper to set the white point, so I'll take a highlight off that. And then, if you want, you can maybe adjust the mid-range, darker or lighter. I like to make it a little bit darker, and maybe adjust also the saturation on that to get a really sort of like cosmic orange coming out on the bike there. Now, I've done that, and normally when you do that kind of work, you need to go and do a render, but I don't have to here. I'm working with standard definition. The little green bar above there says there's an effect applied. And you know what? I could preview that right then, right there, in real time, which is wondrous. What's this? What have I got over here? Okay, this is still. Okay, so we just froze the action there because I want to put the name of the motorcycle onto that. I can do that, it's not a problem. Let me go into get some of these action stills we've got here. The things I could do. First of all, I want to put a little X mark above there. That's alright, just setting that up. Okay, so let's set our ins and our outs. And we'll just go and grab my Photoshop file. This could be any kind of graphic file you want to work with. This one's just a Photoshop file with transparency around the outside edge. Okay? It's called an alpha channel. That's what this checkered background is all about there. So let me just put that onto there. Okay, so I'll just drag that across now. And we can do maybe a superimposition. I can just superimpose that on top. So I'm just going to drag that on. And, excuse me just a moment. I need to target where I want that to go. Aha! I know why. It's good, just a moment. I'm running out of screen estate on this, that's what's happening. Okay. told you I normally pass over to Mark for this stuff because he actually knows what he's doing. Alright. Let's put that on top of there. There we go. Thank you. Right, so we put that on top of there. That will play back, although there's no action. Okay, so there's not a lot happening. Now, I might maybe want to animate this. I can do so in a bunch of different ways. The thing I could do is I could maybe change the size of this over time. I could reposition it over time. Position it there. What will I do with it? I guess what I've got some favourite effects I can put onto this. I'll just drag those over. Okay, so I've got a logo. I can start my logo. Oh, little stretch on the logo here at the beginning. And another one at the end of that. So I'm just dragging these onto the timeline. And we can preview how these are going to look. Let me just swap my window, just make it standard layout. Okay. So I can see what that's happening now. Because there's so much effects processing taking place there, I can't preview in real time. A couple of things I could do. I could play it frame by frame, which is not bad. Or there's a great little tool here on the tools menu we called the quick view. The quick view just throws everything into a little window for you. You can say, well, I want to see 2 seconds either side of the timeline. And the first pass through, it'll kind of play it frame by frame. In fact, I need longer than that, don't I? I need about 3 seconds either side of that. Okay. So I'll play it frame by frame, and then you can see what's happened there. So that comes in, dissolves, the byte freezes, and then out it goes. Tremendous. What I wanted to see, I can see that in real time. Alright, a couple of other things I need to do with this. Let's just come up here. What have I got with this? I guess at the end of the file, we've got some nice stuff going on. We've got, I'll show you. Just come over here. Just got this emptiness. I don't know who that band are, but they definitely sound Swedish to me. What do you think? Okay, what I'm going to do is grab hold of maybe some text. Okay, let's grab hold of a text file. And this is all the guys who put together the movie. So make a copy of that into memory. Okay, and I need to put some text on top of this. How can I do that? I can use a brand new thing called 3D Title Editor. So 3D Title Editor, I can type directly into this, or I can just paste the text in. I guess what I'm going to have to do is sort out my tabs, so I can do that very quickly. Kind of like a bit of desktop publishing going on here. Excellent. So just drag those in. Fine. Once you've done that, you can just apply that. It creates like a text slug that you can then drag and just drop onto here. Okay? So I'm going to put that over, maybe on top of this. There we go. Fantastic. You can actually see what's happening with that as well, and put a little text slug in on top of that. So all of these things, excuse me, drag it in there. Excellent. So put a little text slug on top of there. And I could fade that up, fade that down, do whatever I want with that. Okay, so who's doing this stuff currently? There's a company, a big broadcasting company in the UK called Granada. They make movies for Granada Television, which just got bought out by one of the bigger ITN type companies. They also do movies for companies all over the world on subjects such as natural history and so on. And just like we did with the difference earlier on, what we did was we interviewed a guy called Dave Blackham. Dave Blackham works for Granada Television, and he is in fact in charge of some of the stuff that goes on there. So what we said was, terrific, could you let us interview you, Mr. Blackham, using our little video camera? And he did, and this is what he had to say.